Welcome back everybody. Today we're gonna play Astra on Fracture. Today is day 103 of playing every agent on every map. Today's agent Astra is one of the better smokes agents in the game. At least in my opinion, she has a lot of outplay potential and can be used in a lot of different ways, and is especially good if combined with a lot of the rest of their team, and can be used with almost any agent. Especially good on with agents that either can take space pretty quickly, where you can stun and suck for them, or that with agents that have damaging abilities like a Tejo or a Raze. In general, I recommend if you play an Astra that you actually know how to play her. She is not that difficult, but always call your team if you, for example, recall a smoke, or use a smoke as a smoke, or use them as a stun. Always talk to your team. Starting off with A-side defense. On A-side defense, you can place a star right here in the beginning of the round and smoke that if you have some util to stop the enemies from coming into a main. As soon as you smoke this, it is pretty easy to hold a main for your team because they can walk all the way up here, especially if you have like a chamber or a Reyna that can dismiss, or as well with a chat. You can take this main space here pretty easily, but you need to have some other util that comes through here, for example a breach stun, take your mollies or something like that, and maybe even a Raze nade. So don't usually smoke there unless your team is planning to take a main, and coordinate that with your team. Another thing you can also do is place a star right here and use it as a stun. Most of the times it's not really the greatest thing. You can also use it as a sock, by the way, but it is pretty predictable, so I wouldn't recommend you use that. You use a normal breach stun for that, or take your mollies. A Astra stun is just too predictable for that. Then other things you can do is you can smoke off the door by just smoking right here. As you can see, if you smoke this, the door is smoked off, the enemies don't really have a chance of seeing out, and it is in general a pretty good smoke. And then on the other hand, you can also smoke main in two different ways. One being this one right here. It allows you to play close here, it allows you to play close on the other side as well. You can also play inside, even peek out from behind, peek the enemies that are playing close here, especially if they want to try to grab the ult orb. It is a pretty strong peek here, and you are able to get out pretty quickly most of the times. So it is a pretty good smoke if you want to hold main actively, and if you just want to hold main from sides or from CT as well, you can just smoke like this and you will have the side smoked off. Other than that, you can also do the same thing here on B. You can place a aggressive smoke right here. I actually recommend using that as a recall, because it firstly allows you to walk out, but it also allows the enemies to walk out as well. If you use this wall as a this smoke as a recall, you can get close here, fight the enemies like this. Again, this is a thing I don't really recommend on a Astra, because if you are an Astra, you are gonna have a long time to get away again, because you have to walk. If you use it on a Reyna or a chamber, maybe even a chat or a neon, this can work pretty well, also on a waylay. Other than that, if the enemies are coming from drop, you can use a smoke like this one to stop them from coming in. You can then also either decide to silent jump up here if you do it right. So you need to get close, one step, and then seek. So the enemies are not going to be able to hear you jump up. They might hear you sprint, but in general, they're not going to really expect it. Or you can also play close here in the smoke, hold this, or even play out of the smoke here in CT and just spam as soon as you hear somebody drop. Or you can also use a stun down here. As soon as you hear anyone drop, you smoke on top already, and then you hear anyone drop, you can stun, or you can even suck, and then you can go inside of the smoke, spray, and get kills on enemies that are playing inside. Other than that, again, you can also use a stun here close if the enemies are trying to come out. Pretty good stun. Same thing with the suck, especially if you have, for example, a Raze nade coming or something like that to stop the enemies from coming out. For a retake, I recommend you smoke main most of the times. If you know somebody is drop, smoking drop is also worth it pretty well. And then you can use either a suck or a stun. I recommend actually a suck under and a stun on top. That makes it pretty hard for the enemies to play on site. You can stun here, suck here, spam in this corner. You will do a lot of damage to the enemies that are playing close, and in general it is pretty good to retake the site, because with a stun down here, anyone under is gonna get stunned. With a suck on top, or even with a stun you can place below, you're gonna have only one angle you really need to focus on, because the rest of the enemies are gonna be sucked and stunned, and you can have an easier time retaking. And for the ult, it always depends on where they have planted. If they have planted backside, you can just use a ult like this one. Have your teammates hold in front of the ult, and you yourself can go backside and ult and just defuse like this. Or you can use a similar ult either here in main, if they have planted for main itself. Go here for the defuse. Or you can even ult off the backside area like this, and go for the defuse like this. In general, all of these three ults are pretty useful, and they can get you a lot of value. You can have people holding in front of the ult, and you just defuse behind it, or you can hold and somebody else diffuses behind it. It doesn't really matter as long as somebody is defusing. Switching over towards B now. On B, you can do a similar thing as on A main. You can also use a smoke right here. Always tell that to your team. If the enemies are, if your team is trying to take the A main space with, for example, a breach stun and some other util, you can smoke off here, so the enemies have a harder time to take this space through the smoke, and you can get an isolated fight on the others. Or you can just use a star right here, recall it, and get the same effect, only for a shorter amount of time, and you can catch enemies off guard pretty well. Another thing you can also do is to just play back on the site, and then use a smoke in main as soon as enemies are planning to come in, and use a second star right here that you can use as a suck or a stun as soon as the enemies are trying to get in. You wait for a contact of one of your teammates, then you go for the stun, and then you can just get a free kill on the people that are already out, and you can also spam behind them. Similarly, you can also use a similar way of a smoke here. You can play inside of that smoke as well, by the way. It is pretty good, especially on an Astra. You can also walk out behind of the smoke and get some kills on the people that are playing close here. It is pretty good on an Astra as well, but I recommend you still do that on a Chamber or Arena that has a way to get out. Other than that, you can also play close here. As soon as you hear somebody go on the rope, you can use a stun and peek out. I still recommend you have this smoke up here if you want to go for that play. Most of the times it's not really worth it, but if you have a stun down here and you know somebody's down here, you can just stun, peek the enemies, even peek out a little more, spam the people that are in the back, and then get out again. You can also try to suck the people that are trying to go for a plant, especially if they are planting for main, because you can place your star pretty far outside, and you're still gonna pull the people that are trying to plant close, so they get off of the bomb site and they're not gonna be able to get a plant in. Same thing can also be done here on backside. If you know the enemies are trying to go for a plant, you can just suck them, make them go out, and you can then spam these people without even needing to have any util in the back to get them out. Then for the retake, again, smoking main is a pretty good thing. Also, depending on where the enemies are at, you can use a recall star or a smoke here to cross over towards the site, and you can use stuns here on site or here in heaven. Stun them before you peek this, and same thing here on heaven as well. You can also use a suck, it doesn't really matter if you want to take this space here and then fight the people or hold the people here in the tower area. For ult, it's always dependent on where you're planting. If they have planted for main, you can use a ult like this, have your teammates hold in front of it, and start going for the defuse. You can also place it a little farther behind, so it is really hard for the enemies to get through. But in general, having one person holding main, one person holding tower is a pretty good thing, because the people from tower can't really spam you and you can just go for a stick. If you have planted for main, you can use a similar ult. I don't really recommend this one for main because there's a lot of space here. So you can also go for an ult like this one that just covers main, and then either smoke yourself, make it harder for the enemies to see you, and then just stick the defuse. Switching over towards attack now. On attack, you can do something that you can only really do with an Astra, and it is recalling a star right here. This allows you to dodge the util in main for the first like seconds, and then take out the space right after. You can like take it back, walk out with your whole team, and then get ready to peek that person that is trying to peek you here. You only have to kind of worry about if it is a chat or a chamber, so that they can go away without you being able to trade them. But most of the times, this recall is a pretty good one if the enemies are taking the A main space right away, and then you want to refight it. Other than that, you can also use a recall on top of this smoke, on top of these boxes right here. It is kind of a one-way, not really the best one, but it can work for you if you want to take the A main space. And in general, you can use that from time to time. Other than that, smoking on an Astra is always dependent on where you want to go. If you don't want to take this area right here in sands, you don't have to smoke this spot right here. You can just smoke here and here in these two spots. These two spots will give you a pretty good coverage. You can go out of here. You even have a little one-way right here. You only need to worry about this angle right here. Nobody on top can peek you because you are hidden pretty well. But you can kind of deny that angle by just going back here and then peeking or hard pre-firing that angle and get a free kill on the people that are trying to hold you. Or you can also use one singular smoke. If you don't have any more time, you can use one smoke right here, and it will also do the job for you. You'll be able to cross over towards the site. There's gonna be gaps on the sites, but they're not that big, and as long as you like jump while the gap is there, most of the times you're not even gonna get shot. You have to kind of worry about people from up here being able to see you cross, or you go up here the stairs, but most of the times you are pretty safe going through. However, if you want to take the sands area, I recommend you use a smoke right here, and then one here in CT. Take the space, maybe even use a stun here close. Sometimes a player likes to play close here, either in this corner or close here, and then you can use a stun, go out, clear the corners, smoke, and then even go towards the side. Other than that, you can use a stun here close in that corner, stun anyone that is playing on these stairs or playing on top. You can also use a suck right here in the corner. You're gonna suck anyone that is trying to be close here on the stairs, and it's gonna make it pretty hard for enemies to get out. Or you can also use those things either on top side or under to be able to get the people out of the spots inside, so you have a free side take. Other than that, if the enemies are playing a lot here on dish, you can also decide to smoke dish off and use your second smoke a little over towards this side. What this does is that you have a free time taking the side. You also cover your spot right here because you also have another smoke right there to be able to get a cross right here. There's gonna be a gap in here. You can also decide to place this smoke a little further out to kind of deny that gap. But it is not the greatest smoke you can use. But if you don't really have that much time and you just want to take the side and get on the spike, you can use these two smokes to get the side pretty easily. For a ult, you have two different options, one being this one right here. It will block off CT, it will block off tower, but it will still allow the enemies to come out of tower pretty easily. And it will also block off the area right here, so you can clear it out like this, use a flash through it, and clear behind it. You just have to worry about somebody playing in this close corner right here, or in this corner right there. Other than that, you can obviously also use a ult like this one. Not the greatest ult again, but it will get you to site. But you have to worry about people trying to peek through, especially with flashes. You can then decide to go off of the site and play post plant with sock and stun. So you can use your sock first and then use your stun second. It is a thing I recommend for everyone that plays Astra to have 2 stars on the spike and then alternate them. If the enemies are thinking, yeah, you're gonna suck, so they're just gonna tap, you can insta stun and collect the kill. And then you can save your sock for a second time. And also coordinate your util with your team. For example, if you have Taekyo mollies, raise nades, Sova shock darts, or anything like that, tell them you're gonna suck first so they can like save your the other util for later, so you have more delay. And then if you wanna take the area here in dish, you can use a couple of different things. Firstly is a stun right here to stop the enemies from pushing out. If the enemies tend to push out, you can use a stun like that. Or you can also use a suck here close to get the people that are in this close corner right here vulnerable, and they're gonna have to move and you have a easier time killing them because they are not gonna be fully accurate. You can also take this space, by the way, right here with a recall smoke, but that is a thing that is only like really recommended if you're like playing in really coordinated lobbies with like a 5-stack of your friends and you want to have a like plan to take this area without that much util. You can use a recall right there. Switching over towards B now. On B, it is pretty common that people peek this angle right here close. You can kind of deny that peek, but also get them the ability to walk out even further by recalling a smoke right here while you walk up. So the enemies that are going here in main have either a triple or quad peek by your team. If you have everyone going here, it's going to be pretty hard for them to get out. But if they have like a chamber that has a instant TP, same thing with a chat, maybe even as a Reyna, they can get one kill and get out and get an even further angle out. So if they are like trying to peek you close here and then you recall a smoke, they might even go all the way over here, get a kill, dash out, TP out or dismiss out. So kind of take care of that and see what the enemies have for a comp, so you can get like the kill on main pretty easily. Other than that, classic smokes are right here and right here on Gen. These two smokes you are gonna use on almost every side take. They are pretty default. You can also use some stars inside them to stop the people from pushing out. And you can also use stars towards the side to stop the enemies from pushing out tower or playing on site. Or even behind the boxes right here. If you know a enemy likes to play behind these boxes really much, you can stun this and then have your duelist go for the people that are playing close here. Other than that, you can also kind of use a stun to clear out the Gen area right here. If you have, for example, Taekyo mollies, you can use a stun. Make sure the person can't really get away. Same thing also with a suck, if you know somebody is stuck in this area right here. Other than that, if you want to come from here on rope, or canteen. Other than that, if you want to come here from arcade, you can use a star here as a recall to stop the enemies from peeking you on top. Walk out, have a deeper peek, and you can also use a star right here to stop the enemies from playing behind these boxes. So you can use a sock, you can use a stun, and then clear out these boxes like this. You can also use a smoke right here if you want to cross over towards arcade. You can also use a recall, by the way. Use a recall and then smoke right here. So it will look something like this. You place your normal smokes, gonna use recall, smoke, smoke. Your teammates can cross over. Anyone that is playing close here is gonna be in a pretty open angle and is gonna have a hard time getting out. and like that you can take the site pretty easily. And now for a ult, I recommend you use a ult either like this.
Well divided.
By the way, this ult also allows you to have a Euro TP in this corner right here without being able to be heard when the people that are playing on site. But the only people that can hear it are the people that are in CT and or in canteen. But it is still a pretty good Euro TP you can use, and it is also a pretty good ult to take the site with. And in general, you can use that ult almost every time when you have your... Other than that, you can also use a bad ult. You can use on some eco rounds. It is a ult like this. It will split off the site, but I don't really like using this ult most of the times because it gives you very little space on site you can take. And you also need to fight forward through this wall with smokes right here and here.
I need a concealment.
And maybe a flash coming through. And then take the space right here as well. If I had to give Astra a rating from S to F, I'd actually give her the S tier. She is, with Brim, probably one of the best smokes on this map because she has a lot of util she can use. Her ult is also pretty useful to get the defuse in or get the plant in and take a site. And in general, I really like playing Astra on this map. I still think Brim is a little bit better, but Astra is a pretty solid second choice, and a map like Fracture that is actually pretty big is also pretty good for an Astra because you can play her on almost any site and you can still smoke the other side pretty easily. That would be it from me. If you want to see any other agents and any other maps, write them down in the comments, and if you want to see anything else Valorant related, write it down there as well. And as always, don't forget to like and sub, and come say hi to me on Twitch where I stream almost daily. Have a great rest of your day, and see you guys very soon. Bye!